Alright, let's look at the case of gerrymandering in the state of Pennsylvania. In the 1990s, Pennsylvania's 6th district looked like this, and the man who was elected to represent that district was a man named Tim Holden. Right next to the district was the 17th district, right here, and the person who was elected to represent that district was George Gekas. However, after the 2000 census, Pennsylvania was due to lose 2 districts, and thus the districts had to be reshaped. The 6th was moved, and the 17th took over much of its place, right here in green. This was done specifically to help give George Gekas, a Republican, an advantage over Tim Holden, a Democrat. George Gekas maintained much of his previous constituency. Also, the whole area was very, very strongly dominant Republican in the year 1988 when George Bush was elected. However, in 1996, there were some demographic shifts, and the area became more sympathetic towards the Democratic Party. As a result, this attempt at gerrymandering failed. George Gekas was defeated, and Tim Holden actually won the district. Okay, let's take a look at another case of gerrymandering in the state of Pennsylvania. In the 1990s, Pennsylvania's 3rd district looked like this, right here in eastern Philadelphia. And the person who was elected to represent it was a man named Robert Borski, and he lived right here. However, after the 2000 census and the population shifts and the redistricting effort, this district was eliminated. The new district that took over much of its place was Pennsylvania's 13th district, and it looked like this in green. The problem was that Robert Borski's house was in this new district, and so was incumbent Democrat Joe Hoffel's house. This essentially forced one of them to either retire or forced them to engage in a primary, which would be extremely expensive and could possibly create an opening for a Republican challenger. However, Robert Borski resigned the office and retired, thus saving the Democratic Party a lot of money and a lot of trouble. Okay, this might be my favorite case of gerrymandering of all time. During the 1990s, Pennsylvania's 20th district looked like this, representing most of southwestern Pennsylvania. The person elected to represent this district was Democrat Frank Mascara, and he lived right here. However, after the 2000 census and the redistricting that took place, this district was moved. The district that came in its place was the 18th district, right here. However, as you might mysteriously notice, Frank Mascara's house was not in this district. He was literally drawn out of his own district and put into another district where another incumbent Democrat was representing. This time it was a man named Jack Murtha. Unlike his colleague Robert Borski, Frank Mascara chose not to retire from office and force Jack Murtha into a primary fight that was both lengthy and costly and could have potentially opened up an opening for a Republican candidate to take the district. Okay, now that we've looked at some cases of recent historical gerrymandering, let's look at some current gerrymandering. As you know, the year 2010, the United States government conducted a census. As a result of this census, Pennsylvania was due to lose 2 congressional districts because its population had stagnated, and those districts were moved to more populous states. During the 2000s, Pennsylvania's 4th district looked like this, and it was represented by a man named Jason Altmeyer, and Jason Altmeyer lived right here, and still does. The 12th district looked like this, and it was represented by a man named Mark Kritz. However, after the 2010 census, the 4th district, ostensibly Jason Altmeyer's district, moved all the way over here, and the 12th district got reshaped to look like this. This was very, very similar to the Mascara and the Borski cases in that it forced 2 incumbents from the same party into the same district, which essentially forces them to have a primary, waste time, waste money, and possibly create an opening for a opposite party to take over the district. Okay, as we've seen in the past, what happens a lot of times is that districts are redrawn to include 2 incumbents from the opposing party. But this isn't the only way you can gerrymander. Another type of gerrymandering is called cracking, where you basically cut opposing voters in half so they have diminished influence in 2 different districts as opposed to a heavy influence in a single district. Let's look at Pennsylvania's 3rd district, right here. It includes much of northwestern Pennsylvania. However, despite the fact that Pennsylvania is due to lose 2 districts, the 3rd district didn't really move. It just got a little different. So what happened here? It got a little fat down at the bottom, and Erie County basically got cut in half at the top. Why is this? This is likely because of all the counties in the 3rd District, the only one that had more than 50% of its voters voting for Barack Obama in the 2008 election was Erie County, with 59.35% of the voters. This means that the likely Democratic voters in the 3rd District will have their influence diminished because half of the Democratic voters in Erie County will live in the 3rd District and the other half will live in the 5th District, right here. This makes it highly unlikely that a Democrat will be able to take this district from the Republicans in the next 10 years.